Her daughter-in-law adjusted the hidden camera, right above the dining room hutch. Margot Whitaker, 76, smiled sweetly and let the kettle boil over. Trent, her only son, whispered upstairs that one good fall would hand them everything. By week's end, the trust was rewritten, the house sold, and their access severed forever. She'd raised him with grace, but protected herself with proof. And when they pressed record again, the footage signed their ruin. Before we begin, may I ask, where in this big, beautiful world are you listening from? It's always a quiet honor to know who's sharing this space. Drop it in the comments and don't forget to subscribe. At first I thought I was hearing things. The tiniest click, like a pen cap snapping into place. It came randomly. No rhythm, no source. Just there. Echoing faintly off the living room walls I'd dusted for 40 years. But then, one night, I heard it again. Louder. Followed by a soft whir, like a small motor adjusting, recalibrating. The kind of sound that doesn't belong in a house built before microwaves came standard. I paused mid-knitting, the wool slipping from my fingers. My eyes scanned the room. Nothing. Just shelves of books I'd actually read, curtains I'd sewn myself, and the old grandfather clock that hadn't worked in a decade, but still made me feel like time had manners. Then I saw it. The red blink. Just a flash. A pinpoint. Nestled behind a hardcover of Little Women, where the dust was oddly cleaner, and the spine sat slightly crooked. I didn't move toward it. I didn't gasp. I simply shifted in my seat, picked up my knitting again, and smiled into the silence. South. That's how we were playing it. 2 weeks earlier, my son Trent and his wife Jessa had moved into my home under the banner of help. They said they were worried about me living alone since Dad passed, said the house was too big for one person, said a lot of things. What they hadn't said, not aloud, was that they were circling, like vultures. At dinner that night, Jessa served the baked chicken like she owned the table. Trent passed the wine with the kind of practiced casualness that tried too hard to be warm. "You've been leaving the stove on again, huh?" he said with a chuckle. "Almost caught the kettle melting this morning." I smiled, chewing my green beans carefully. "Is that so?" Jessa laughed, tapping her glass. "It's okay, Mom. We'll help keep an eye on things." That click again, subtle, right above the dining hutch. Noticed, not acknowledged. I set my fork down, folded my napkin, and said, "Well, lucky me." They didn't realize I'd seen it. They didn't know I'd already tested the blinds, left deliberate dishes in the sink, and forgotten to turn off the bathroom light 3 times just to watch their reactions. Jessa had taken notes in that little leather-bound planner of hers, the one she thought I didn't notice tucked beside her crossword book. I'd found the other camera 2 days ago, hidden in the ceiling vent of the hallway. Poorly installed. Poorly planned, like they assumed I didn't look up anymore, but I was watching, listening. They weren't building a support system, they were building a case. The next morning, I woke before dawn, put on my floral housecoat, the one they said made me look outdated, and brewed a pot of tea. I sat in the living room, adjusted the chair ever so slightly to face the shelf, and waited until the sun poured enough light through the lace curtains to reflect off the lens. The red blink greeted me again. I smiled directly at it and said in my sweetest voice, "Oops." I forgot again. Then I let the kettle boil over. If they wanted a performance, I'd give them one worth watching. I just hoped they were enjoying the show, because it would be their last starring role before the curtain came crashing down. The day after the kettle boiled over, I started misplacing things on purpose. The remote control ended up in the freezer. I put a tea bag in the sugar bowl. I called the mailman Roger, his name's Paul, and let it hang awkwardly just long enough for the hallway camera to pick it up. Jessa noticed immediately. She began circling like a crow with a clipboard. She kept a notebook, faux leather, red trim, and filled it with smug little lists I wasn't supposed to see. I made sure I did. Tuesday. Forgot laundry and washer. Called me Carol. Left back door unlocked. Again. She underlined again twice. I underlined it a 3rd time when she wasn't looking, just to amuse myself. I'd found one of their audio mics too, a tiny thing hidden behind the decorative pears on the dining room buffet. That one ticked, ever so faintly, when the HVAC shut off. They must have been proud of their surveillance setup. Too bad they didn't know the woman they were watching was preparing her own recording. I installed a voice-activated audio recorder under the runner in the dining room, my own little insurance policy. It blended in perfectly, and I only needed a few days of material. Turns out I only needed one. That evening, over leftover meatloaf, I forgot what day it was. Again, Jessa looked at Trent, triumphant. I think we're getting close. Later, once they'd gone upstairs, whispering loudly about not pressuring her yet, I retrieved the recorder and sat at my desk like it was a security post. I hit play, static, silverware clinking. Then Trent's voice, clear and cold. She's nearly there. One good fall and it's ours. A pause, a low laugh from Jessa. Careful, she said. We don't want to push her too fast. My hand didn't shake, my jaw didn't clench. I just pressed stop, sat back, and let the silence fill the room like armor. They weren't helping me, they weren't waiting. They were hunting. Slowly, methodically. And I'd let them think they were winning. The next morning, I called Cassandra. She picked up on the second ring. Margot? You still working with a quiet hand and a heavy pen? I asked. There was a pause. Then, you better tell me everything. I did. Every camera, every whisper, every trap they'd set. I need a mirror trust. Fast. We're flipping the house before they can even blink. Cassandra didn't hesitate. I'll draft something ironclad. But Margot, if they're gathering footage to push for guardianship, you need medical clarity. I'm ahead of you. That same afternoon, I called Claire, an old friend of mine who now ran a discreet private clinic outside Raleigh. Claire used to teach neuroscience at Duke, before she retired and decided she preferred tea to tenure. By 3 p.m., I was sitting in her small exam room with a crossword puzzle in one hand and her pen light in the other. She ran every cognitive test she could think of, some I'd never heard of, and laughed as she read the results. Margot, you're sharper than half the med students I trained, she said. You could pass as my attending. Put it in writing, I told her. Make it formal, dated, stamped. She raised an eyebrow. Planning something? I smiled. Just rehearsing. But I didn't schedule the follow-up under my name. I used Margaret Harris, my maiden name with my late mother's birthday as the DOB. I gave them my secondary phone line. If they thought they were the only ones tracking behavior, they'd be sorely disappointed. As I left the clinic, Claire squeezed my hand. Don't let them get away with this. They won't, I said, stepping into the sunlight. They're too busy watching the wrong performance. It was over breakfast, of all things. Trent set the manila envelope next to my coffee like it was just another napkin. Jessa buttered toast like she hadn't rehearsed this moment 100 times in the mirror. We had a lawyer friend draw up some basic protections, Trent said casually, pouring syrup. Just safety stuff, in case you ever needed someone to step in. His voice was warm, calculated, like a man offering you a chair while pulling it out from under you. Oh, how thoughtful, I said, lifting the envelope with deliberately unsteady hands. Inside, a stack of neatly typed documents, legal-sized paper, heavy weight, the kind that makes people think it's official even before they read the words. I skimmed the top page. Durable power of attorney, naming both Trent and Jessa as agents. Next, revocable living trust, naming them again as co-trustees with immediate property control. Full rights upon signature, retroactive clause, irrevocable upon incapacity. And there it was, the noose disguised as a net. I flipped the pages slowly, murmuring fake appreciation. You two think of everything. Jessa smiled over her coffee. We just want to make sure your wishes are honored, Margot, that nothing gets messy. Oh, of course, I said, smoothing the top page. Such clean formatting. They didn't see the flick of my eyes. They didn't notice that I didn't ask questions, that I didn't protest, that I didn't even hesitate. I let the pages settle beside my plate. I'll look these over later, I said lightly. Don't want to drip jam on anything important. Trent chuckled. No rush? That night, they watched reruns in the den, volume just loud enough to cover the soft creak of my bedroom door opening. I moved quietly, folder under arm, iPhone in hand, no lights. I'd been quiet in this house longer than they'd been alive. I spread the pages across my dresser and photographed each one, top to bottom. Every clause, every signature line, every pre-filled date. Then I tucked them back in the envelope, placed it on the corner of my dresser with a post-it. Read later. Remind me. A little extra frosting for the camera above the hallway door. Back under the covers, I opened Google and typed, "Durable Power of Attorney Scam Elder." The top results all matched the wording I'd just read. My fingers hovered over the phone. Midnight ticked past. Then 1 a.m. At 2:03, I hit dial. "Hello?" Cassandra's voice was raspy but alert. "They tried to hand me a leash," I said. "I want it looped back around their necks." That got her fully awake. "Tell me what's in it." I did. Every page. I had the photos, but I needed the right structure, the mirrored version, one that looked identical, felt identical, but rewired the outcome entirely. "I want you listed as executor, all final say, not them," I said, "and I want a separate clause that strips them of inheritance the second they contest anything. Make it airtight." "You're serious," Cassandra whispered. "I'm 76, not stupid," I said. "I've just been patient. There's a difference." There was silence, then the sound of typing. She was already drafting. "I'll prep 2 versions, one for the record, one for the performance." I smiled into the dark. "I'll let them watch me sign it." The morning was staged like a play. I made sure the lighting was soft, the blinds half drawn so the shadows fell gently on my face. I wore my pale blue cardigan, the one that made me look just frail enough to confirm their delusions. My hair was loosely pinned, slippers scuffing the floor as I shuffled to the dining table. They'd set everything up already. Trent adjusted the camera discreetly, not knowing I'd already noticed the angle shift 3 days ago. Jessa placed the folder dead center on the table, her voice sweetened with false concern. "We don't want to overwhelm you, Mom," she said, pulling out a chair for me. "Just a few signatures, and then you can rest." "Rest," I murmured, lowering myself into the seat. "That sounds nice." My hands shook, just a little, as I reached for the pen. I let them see the tremble. I let them believe it was weakness. But I'd spent the night before rehearsing every line, every gesture. The folder in front of me, my version, Cassandra's version. Identical in font, layout, even the order of the pages. The only difference was the ending. Mine stripped Trent and Jessa of all inheritance, gave Cassandra full executor authority, established a clause that barred them from contesting it under penalty of forfeiture. The document they'd wanted me to sign was still upstairs, untouched. This one would be the one that mattered. Caught on camera, time-stamped, and, ironically, their own proof. "Okay," Trent said gently, pointing. "Initial here and here. And sign this bottom part." I squinted, moved the paper closer to my nose. "Now what's this part again?" I asked, voice syrupy and slow. Jessa stepped in like a schoolteacher. "It just says you trust us to help with decisions. We'll only step in if needed." "Oh," I said, nodding like a child being walked through a coloring book. "I do trust you both so much." Trent reached across the table and patted my hand like he was already planning which car he'd lease with my life insurance. I signed the final page, one signature, clean, confident. The camera light blinked. It was done. Jessa exhaled like she'd just crossed a finish line. "This is our golden ticket," she muttered to Trent as she began stacking the pages. "She doesn't even realize it." I blinked at her. "Realize what, dear?" Trent covered her slip with a grin. "Nothing, Mom. We're just glad we're getting things in order." "Oh," I said again. "Now what?" He smiled wider, like he was already measuring drapes for the master bedroom. "That's it. We'll take care of the rest." "Wonderful." I stood slowly. "I think I'll go lie down now." "Of course." Jessa said, her eyes already scanning the folder again like it was a lottery ticket. I shuffled toward the hallway, turned the corner, and waited behind the door until I heard them head upstairs. Then I moved. I pulled the signed copy, my copy, from the dining room drawer where I'd tucked it the night before. Cassandra's instructions were clear. Deliver it directly to the county clerk. No email, no fax, hard copy, time-stamped. I slid it into the envelope she'd pre-addressed, sealed it with steady hands, and tucked it into my coat. The mailbox sat 2 blocks away, close enough to walk, far enough to cool my nerves. I passed Mrs. Leary's place on the way. She waved from her porch swing. I waved back. By the time the sun set, the envelope was sitting in the blue box with the county seal pressed into its front. My document, my legacy, my terms. As the lid clanged shut, I smiled to myself. They thought they'd filmed my downfall. I'd filmed my defense. They raced to the courthouse with a lie. I had already mailed the truth. From the bench outside the post office, I watched the mail truck collect the envelope. My fingers still tingled from the weight of the pen, the press of finality on signature lines that could no longer be undone. 2 blocks away, Trent and Jessa were having eggs and victory mimosas, thinking they'd won. They didn't know the finish line had already closed behind them. Monday morning, they made their move. Jessa dressed for court like she was headed to a networking brunch. Soft gray blouse, pearl earrings, not a single hair out of place. Trent carried the manila folder like a prize-winning science fair project. They were all charm and mild concern as they approached the clerk's desk. "We'd like to file updated estate paperwork for Margot Whitaker," Trent said. "Power of attorney and trust documents. She's agreed to everything. It's just a formality." The clerk, a tall woman in her late 40s with square glasses and a piercing behind one ear, gave them a tight smile. "What's the date on those documents?" "Signed Saturday morning," Jessa said, her tone bright and rehearsed. "Video documented too." The clerk flipped open her terminal, scanned a screen. Her brow creased slightly. She said. "Looks like we already received a trust filing for Ms. Whitaker." Trent blinked. "No, that's not possible. We just had her sign them Saturday." "It was received Friday afternoon," the clerk replied, tapping a few keys. "Time-stamped at 3:42 p.m., filed by Cassandra M. Hale, attorney of record." Jessa stiffened. "That must be a mistake." "No mistake," the clerk said, now clearly enjoying herself. "It's been reviewed by our probate intake team. That trust is already logged, valid, and fully enforceable." "I want a hearing," Trent said, voice tightening. "We want to contest." The clerk raised an eyebrow. "You're welcome to request one, but if you're not a named party in the filed trust, you won't have legal standing." They stood there for a moment, stunned. Then Jessa leaned forward, voice dropping to a hiss. "She tricked us. She pretended to be confused. We have it on video." "She's on camera signing what she knew wasn't your version," Trent added. "That's manipulation." "She's on video appearing compliant and clear-headed," the clerk corrected. "And if you're submitting that video as evidence, you may be helping her case more than yours." Somewhere down the hallway, Cassandra waited in the judge's chambers, holding a folder of her own. It contained the trust I had signed, the real one, complete with an attending witness statement, verification of my mental clarity, and a medical note from a licensed clinician confirming full cognitive fitness. Dated, sealed, preemptive. The judge, a former litigator known for her disdain of elder abuse cases, didn't even lean back in her seat. "So let me get this straight," she said. "Your mother appeared lucid in your own footage. She signed documents willingly, without hesitation, and now you're arguing she was deceiving you?" "Yes," Jessa said. "She acted like she didn't understand." "That's not fraud," the judge said coldly. "That's strategy." Trent sputtered. "We didn't know she'd filed another trust." "Maybe you should have checked the mailbox before planning your inheritance," the judge snapped. "Motion to contest is denied. Cassandra Hale's trust stands. Filed first. Properly executed. Irrevocable." The gavel came down like thunder. Outside, Cassandra answered her phone as the courthouse steps echoed with Trent's muttered curses. She didn't smile until she heard the words she'd been waiting for. "It's sealed," Irrevocable, no reversal possible. She hung up, turned toward her car, and called me. "They brought a dagger to a duel," she said, "and you'd already framed the certificate." I took a slow sip of my tea. I did tell them to smile for the camera. If they thought I was quiet, they forgot I knew everyone in town before they were born. This wasn't a city. This was Milford, a town where one wrong look at the grocery store could follow you to church, to the PTA, and into the next decade. I'd been a pillar here before Jessa learned to tweeze her eyebrows, before Trent could drive. These people watched me organize bake sales, fund field trips, build literacy programs for the library. They didn't forget. They just hadn't heard what needed telling, yet. That changed the day I pressed play. I sat at my kitchen table with a pot of Earl Grey and the audio recorder tucked beneath a dish towel. The voices rang out in crisp digital detail. "Trent. She's nearly there. One good fall and it's ours." Jessa laughing. "Careful, we don't want to push her too fast." It wasn't just cruel, it was strategy. Calculated, almost smug. I trimmed the clip, added a clear timestamp overlay, and converted it to a private MP4 file. Then I sent it in a group email to 12 people, my bridge group, 2 retired teachers I used to mentor, the church secretary, and, most importantly, Helen Madsen, head of the Historical Society and town Facebook moderator. The subject line was simple. "I'd like you to hear what's been happening in my home." It didn't take long. The replies started slow. A shocked "Margot" from Penny, a sad face emoji from Helen. Then, one by one, they shared the file, privately at first, then more boldly. By Thursday, Jessa's Pilates class had 3 empty mats and 1 pointed silence. Trent's old co-workers at the bank avoided his lunch invites. The barista at Beanline Cafe, who used to hand Jessa her chai with a compliment, slid her drink across the counter without saying a word. And then came Sunday service. People didn't say anything to me directly. They didn't have to. I watched the shift happen in real time. Conversations broke off when Jessa entered. One usher leaned in to whisper something to the pastor. A toddler even refused to take the candy Jessa offered him after the sermon. Children know when something smells wrong. On the walk home, I passed the mailman, Roger. Yes, Roger. Not Paul, as I'd once joked. He tipped his cap, hesitated, then said quietly, "Heard what they did to you." "That's real low," I smiled. Truth has a way of walking faster than lies. But I wasn't finished. I reached out to the Milford Banner, our local weekly. It wasn't flashy, but it was respected. And its readers? Lifelong residents, most of whom still clipped obituaries and engagement announcements like sacred records. I didn't embellish. I didn't dramatize. I simply handed the editor a thumb drive, the cleanest audio clips, the copy of the now upheld trust, and Cassandra's notarized timeline of events. 2 days later, the headline ran in bold across the front page. She outsmarted them on tape. Local woman documents elder exploitation in her own home. The photo beneath showed me in my garden, pruning roses with gloved hands and calm eyes. The caption read, "Margot Whitaker, 76, proved she was more than capable and more than prepared." I bought 4 copies. One I framed, one I sent to Cassandra, one I mailed to Claire, my neurologist friend, and one I left face up in the center of my front porch, weighted beneath a decorative stone that read, "Welcome." I knew they'd see it. The cameras were still there after all, blinking silently from the corners they thought I'd forgotten. The ad went live on a Tuesday morning. No public signs, no blaring open house invites. Just a quiet entry through Cassandra's network of private buyers. The listing was discreet. Charming Southern colonial, well-maintained, high-value potential, available for immediate transfer. No photos of family portraits, no trace of Trent or Jessa's presence. I knew they'd eventually notice, but by then, it would be too late. The buyer, Erica Doyle, flew in from Asheville. Real estate investor. Direct, polished, no time for theatrics. She arrived in slacks, carried her own clipboard, and never once asked why the house was being sold out from under 2 adult children. "Quiet neighborhood," she said, walking slowly through the foyer. "Hardwood's original?" Restained 4 years ago, I said, and reinforced underneath, solid bones. She tapped the banister twice with her knuckle approvingly. Jessa and Trent were gone for the afternoon. Jessa had some urgent wellness seminar she just couldn't miss, and Trent had taken to sleeping in until noon, convinced I was spiraling without his guidance. Perfect. Cassandra trailed us with a folder in hand, her heels silent on the rug. She gave only one look when we passed the room Trent had claimed as his office. Erica peeked in, saw the piles of unopened Amazon boxes, and didn't even blink. "No emotional baggage with this sale?" Erica asked bluntly as we stepped into the sunroom. "Not mine," I said, steady. "And no legal encumbrances either. Title's clean, transfer ready." Jessa must have noticed the emptied china cabinet later that evening. My good silver was already packed in Cassandra's SUV, the quilts, the albums, the jewelry, all boxed and labeled under my bed, ready for one quiet loadout. She came to me around 9 p.m., voice sugar-coated with that sickly sweet desperation I'd heard once before, when she was trying to marry my son, despite every red flag flapping in the wind. "You're not seriously selling the house, are you?" she asked, trying for a light chuckle. "I mean, not without talking to us?" "I did talk to you," I said, not looking up from my book. "You just assumed it didn't count." Her lips parted like she might argue, but then she blinked and tilted her head. "Margot, this place is supposed to be part of Trent's future. You said it yourself once, remember? That this house was family." "Then you should have treated it like one," I said. "Instead, you treated it like a vault." The next morning, Trent cornered me at the mailbox, eyes red, hair still mussed. "We can buy it back," he said, voice low. "We'll figure something out. Get approved for financing. Maybe Jessa's aunt can help with the down." "You don't have it," I cut in. "And this isn't a lemonade stand, Trent. This is an executed deal, with someone who doesn't call me senile behind closed doors." He looked like he wanted to argue. Then he saw the sold sticker on Cassandra's clipboard. That night, Erica came back for the final walkthrough. Trent was passed out in the guest room, half a beer still open on the nightstand. I showed Erica the garden, the roofline, the garage insulation. She nodded, checked a few more boxes, and pulled out her pen. "Cash offer, 30D. I close," she said. "Contingency free." Cassandra slid the acceptance documents forward. I didn't hesitate. As my name hit the final line in black ink, I felt nothing. No sadness, no regret. Just air, moving freely through a house that had, for too long, been stifled by entitlement. I used to carry their access in my wallet, Trent's name on a joint savings account, Jessa's emergency card tucked behind my 8AA membership like it belonged there. All those years of just in case and what if something happens to me, until I realized something already had. What happened was them. I made the appointment in person. Not online, not over the phone. I wanted the eye contact. I wanted the record to show that I walked in clear-headed and unshakable. The banker, Miguel, recognized me from the Rotary Club, polite, efficient, and wisely cautious. "Just so I'm clear," he said, after glancing at the notary letter Cassandra had faxed ahead. "You want to revoke all secondary access to your personal and estate-linked accounts?" "Yes. Remove all users, close any shared credit lines, and freeze anything Jessa Harper or Trent Whitaker have touched in the last 2 years." He nodded, then paused. "Even the card with the auto pay for the utilities?" "They won't be paying them much longer," I said, without blinking. I signed where needed. He clicked through screens, dragging files into restricted folders, deleting linked phone numbers one by one. Every time a screen flashed unlinked in green, I felt lighter, cleaner. An hour later, Cassandra sent confirmation from the trust account's custodian. All emergency access points had been formally closed, no authorization codes, no call-in PINs, no accidental forgot password options. My money had finally come home. I left the bank with a folder under my arm and a shredded credit card in my coat pocket. One I knew Jessa had used at least twice last month, once at a salon and once, insultingly, at a store that sells vintage record players for people who don't listen to music, just aesthetics. They felt it by dinner. I was on my porch sipping mint tea when I heard the first ping. My phone lit up with a text from Jessa. WTF, Mom? Did you cancel our accounts? Followed by another. My card was just declined in front of 2 clients. Fix this. No greeting? No apology? No shame? I didn't answer immediately. I let the sun drop a little lower, let the breeze drift through the porch screen. Then, slowly, I typed back, "You watched me. Now watch this." I left it on red. Nothing more. Inside, I turned off the phone and placed it face down on the counter. The house was mostly packed now. The living room felt hollow, but not lonely. Echoes of bad intentions no longer clung to the corners. Trent stormed in 20 minutes later, his breath shallow, his words clipped. "What the hell is going on, Mom?" I looked up from the dish towel I was folding. "Be specific." "Our accounts, our access, it's all frozen. Cassandra's fingerprints are all over this." I smiled slightly. "Cassandra has very clean hands. You can't just... This is our home. You can't make decisions without telling us." "I can," I said calmly. And I did. He paced the kitchen like he was looking for a lost set of keys. Then he stopped, eyes wild. "You're ruining everything." "No," I said, voice cool as ice. "I'm fixing what I let break for far too long." Later that night, Miguel from the bank called to confirm the final security update. "All accounts are now singular under your name, Ms. Whitaker," he said. "You're the sole signatory on everything again." I thanked him, hung up. Then I opened the last shared drawer in the hallway desk, the one labeled "just in case," and removed the old fireproof lockbox with all our financial records. I took it outside, popped it open, removed 2 expired cards and 3 laminated power of attorney forms with Trent's name on them, and I burned them in the rusted chimenea while the stars blinked overhead like tiny red camera lights. The courthouse smelled like lemon polish and paper dust, the kind of sterile odor that made people sit straighter. I wore navy, not black. I wasn't mourning anything anymore. Cassandra walked beside me, calm and unreadable, her leather folder tight in her hands like it contained a scalpel. Inside it was the footage. My footage. Theirs. The mocking, the laughter, the way they dehumanized me over morning coffee like I was already gone. We'd clipped it down to the essentials. 3 audio segments, 1 video. Not enough to bore the judge, just enough to make her listen. The probate hearing was supposed to be a formality, the court's final acknowledgement that the filed trust was valid, binding, and irrevocable. But Trent, ever the deluded tactician, had requested a challenge. Objections of undue influence, he claimed. Manipulation by Cassandra Hale. His voice, as usual, was louder than his facts. The courtroom was modest. Beige walls. A single flag behind the bench. No jury. Just a judge in half-moon glasses and a clerk with her fingers already poised above the keyboard. Trent sat at the opposing table, jaw tight, his tie knotted too high like it was choking him. Jessa didn't speak. Her eyes flicked between the walls like she was looking for an exit or a camera that could save her. "Ms. Hale," the judge began, adjusting her glasses, "you've submitted digital evidence as part of your client's response?" "Yes, Your Honor," Cassandra said. 4 clips, all taken within the home of Ms. Margot Whitaker with no edits beyond timestamp clarification. The judge tilted her head. "Let's see it." Cassandra turned the monitor toward the bench and pressed play. The courtroom fell into a stillness that thickened by the second. Trent's voice, unmistakable. "She's nearly there. 1 good fall and it's ours." Then laughter. Jessa's tone, bright as glass, shattering. "Careful. We don't want to push her too fast. Well, not hard anyway." Then came the video. A hidden hallway camera. Me walking slowly past the bookshelf, my hand on the rail, my eyes tired but focused. Then Trent's whisper to Jessa from the top of the stairs. "She's fading fast. We'll have full control in no time." Silence followed the last clip. Not courtroom silence, not polite or procedural. It was the kind that weighs down the air, that makes even the judge's breath sound too loud. Trent stood, fumbling. "Your Honor, this is completely out of context." The judge held up her hand like a stop sign. "Mr. Whitaker, sit down." He did. "I see no signs of manipulation from the plaintiff," she continued, flipping through the original trust. "In fact, I see remarkable foresight and thorough documentation. Witness signatures, medical evaluation, legal protocol. Not only is this trust valid, it is, frankly, a textbook example of ethical estate preparation." Jessa leaned forward, whispering something to Trent. The judge caught it. "Ms. Harper, you'll remain silent unless spoken to." Jessa flinched like she'd been slapped. "I am additionally filing an order of financial restriction," the judge continued, "barring either of you from initiating contact with Ms. Whitaker regarding any remaining assets. This court will also issue a standing restraining order of 200 feet. Cassandra nodded once. She didn't need to smile. The law had spoken loud enough. A deputy moved toward the bench, retrieved a folded document from the clerk, and walked it across the room. "Ms. Harper," he said quietly, placing it in Jessa's lap, "you are legally prohibited from approaching, visiting, or contacting Ms. Whitaker's new residence. Violation of this order is a misdemeanor. Next time, it'll be cuffs." Jessa didn't answer. She just stared at the page like it was in a foreign language. Outside the courthouse, the wind had picked up. I stood on the steps for a moment, watching the trees sway in the courthouse garden. For once, I felt taller than Trent. "You okay?" Cassandra asked beside me. I nodded. "They filmed my kitchen like it was a trap. They recorded my life to catch a mistake. And now?" I looked straight ahead. "Now I'm the one with the final edit." When Trent first moved in, he installed the new deadbolts for my safety. Jessa upgraded the system with doorbell cams and hallway motion sensors, just in case. They said it was to protect me, but every beep and blink felt like a leash. Now, I was the one holding the pen. And this time, it signed them out. I moved out quietly. No trucks, no spectacle. Just Cassandra's SUV and 2 Sunday school boys I'd bribed with lunch money to lift boxes and swear silence. By the time the sun rose over Maplewood Senior Cooperative, every piece of my life that mattered had already been removed, and the house had been signed over to someone who didn't treat me like an eventual corpse. My new unit smelled like lemon polish and blooming basil. Light streamed through sheer curtains, painting pale stripes across the parquet floors. The neighbors waved without staring. One woman brought banana bread and left it with a note. "Welcome, Margot. You're going to love it here." No cameras, no whispered recordings, just clean air and control. The first night I slept there, I didn't wake up once. No steps in the hallway, no fake sighs from outside my door. Just silence, calm and deserved. Monday, Cassandra filed the last digital packet on my behalf, a donation to the Southern Legal Archives of Elder Justice. All the footage, every shred of surveillance they'd used against me now belonged to a university archive specializing in financial exploitation cases. Anonymous, preserved, admissible. She texted me one line after filing. "Your suffering is now evidence. Your peace is now precedent." It should have ended there. But like most pests, Trent couldn't resist one last knock. He found me at the co-op garden plots, kneeling in the dirt with my gloves half on. He called my name like it meant something. "Mom, can we talk for a second?" I stood slowly, dusted off my knees. He looked smaller somehow, like the suit he wore was borrowed. "There's nothing left to say," I said. "Please," he pressed. "You've made your point. I get it. We messed up. But you raised me. You can't just erase all of that." I gave him a long, unreadable look. "Watch me." He tried again. "We're not bad people, we made a mistake." I turned and walked away mid-sentence. My steps didn't falter. Later that evening, Cassandra forwarded a screen cap of Jessa's latest attempt at sympathy, laced with veiled threats, posted to a local gossip group. "Some people forget who will be wiping their drool in 10 years. It took Cassandra exactly 30 minutes to file a cease and desist with an affidavit citing the court's restraining order and digital defamation laws. One certified envelope, one cold shut of the door. The following morning, I returned to the old house for the very last time, not to reclaim anything, but to leave something behind. A single silver key, the original, slightly bent at the tip. the one I'd had since Henry and I first closed on the place. I placed it on the front driveway, right on the painted compass rose Trent once mocked as boomer Pinterest energy. He could stare at it all he wanted, but it wouldn't open anything again. I stood at the curb for a moment, letting the light break gently across the sidewalk. The house looked smaller now, like a memory fading into a painting. Pretty, but no longer real. I got into the car, closed the door gently. It was 3 days after the closing. Just enough time for Erica to have the locks changed, security system reprogrammed, and new curtains hung in the front windows. The for sale sign had never gone up, but the sold sticker on the file at the county recorder's office was bold and irreversible. Trent and Jessa didn't seem to know that yet. Jessa pulled up first, driving Trent's old SUV with the busted taillight and a fresh Target bag in the front seat. She marched up the driveway like she still owned something, her heels clicking sharply on the pavement. Trent followed, slower, his hands in his pockets, jaw clenched like it was wired shut. He punched in the code on the side door keypad, beep, then red. Beep, beep. Another red flash. Jessa stepped forward. Maybe it's just glitchy. Try again. He did. Same code, same tone, same rejection. She knocked on the door. No answer. The place was silent behind the glass. She jiggled the handle. Locked. What the hell? She muttered. She didn't change the code, did she? She doesn't live here anymore, Trent said under his breath. The sale must have gone through already. Well, then we should still be able to get in. This is our… It's not our anything, he snapped, cutting her off. Inside the house, just beyond the door, Erica Doyle was organizing shelves with a clipboard in one hand and a Bluetooth earpiece in the other. She was unbothered by the voices outside, until the doorbell rang. She opened the door slowly, only halfway. Can I help you? Jessa stepped forward like she was taking charge of a meeting. Yes, we're Margot Whitaker's family. This is our home. We're just trying to get inside to… Erica held up a hand. Stop right there. Trent blinked. Excuse me? You're not on the deed, she said evenly, pulling a folded document from her clipboard. This property was transferred to me in full last week, recorded, sealed, and clean. I'm the legal owner. Jessa's eyes narrowed. That can't be right. Erica turned the paper toward them, a full-color print of the title transfer. Her name, bold and centered, was impossible to miss. Trent stepped forward, desperation finally cracking his pride. Look, there's gotta be some misunderstanding. There was supposed to be a future plan. There was, Erica said. It just didn't include you. Jessa looked like she might explode. You don't even know her. I didn't need to, Erica replied, cool and sharp. I saw a good investment. She saw through your lies. Seems like a fair deal to me. Trent's hand twitched like he might grab the paper. Erica raised her phone. I'm calling non-emergency police dispatch, she said. You're trespassing, and if I have to repeat myself again, the next visit will include a cruiser and paperwork. They didn't argue. Jessa cursed under her breath as they turned away. Trent gave the house one last long look before getting in the car, the kind of look a thief gives when the safe's already been emptied. 2 miles away, in my sunroom, I watched it all unfold. Erica had offered to set up a temporary video feed for me, one last little tether to closure before the chapter fully closed. It was a soft goodbye, watching them try and fail to reclaim something they never respected. I sipped my coffee as Jessa slammed her car door. The feed went dark as they pulled out of the driveway. I didn't need to watch anymore. The first voicemail came on a Tuesday morning, just as the sprinklers clicked on outside my new bedroom window. I was folding laundry. Nothing important, just soft things. Towels, nightgowns, a cardigan I hadn't worn since spring. The phone buzzed once. I let it ring out, then listened to the voicemail. Trent. Hey, Mom, I know things got out of hand. We never meant for it to be like this. Jessa and I were just trying to… Look, you misunderstood, okay? We thought we were helping. Can we talk? The message ended with the hollow beep of a man who thought words could unburn a bridge. That night, another one came, then 2 more the next day. They came at odd times, just after dinner, in the dead of night, once even at 5:04 a.m., as if maybe I'd be half asleep and forget who I was. They switched tactics, first denial, then guilt. "Mom, please call me back. You don't understand how bad this has gotten. Jessa can't sleep. I can't sleep. You're still family." I sat in my reading chair, watching the phone glow in the dark like a haunted lighthouse. I didn't pick up. On Thursday, I opened my old laptop and played the hallway footage one final time. Trent's voice echoed from the tinny speakers. "She's nearly there. One good fall, and it's ours." And then Jessa, casual as ever, laughing. "Careful. We don't want to push her too fast." No misunderstanding, no misinterpretation, just strategy. I closed the file, dragged it to a locked folder, and renamed it "No More Chances." Later that week, my neighbor Beatrice, a retired librarian with sharp eyes and an even sharper lemon pound cake, stopped by. "You look like someone who's been holding their breath too long," she said. "Comes with the territory," I replied, offering her a chair on the porch. She poured coffee from the thermos she'd brought. We sat there, letting the breeze stir the smell of honeysuckle from the hedges. "I haven't told anyone this," she said after a long silence, "but my son tried to cash out my pension before I even turned 70, forged the paperwork and everything. He thought I'd be too foggy to notice." I looked at her, surprised. "He still calls sometimes," she added. "I don't answer. The part that hurts most isn't the money. It's realizing they saw you as a stepping stone, not a person." I nodded, sipping slowly. "We give them everything, and they use it like rope." Beatrice looked at me for a long time. "At least we learned to stop handing it over." That night, I opened my journal and wrote 5 words in black ink. "I'll leave forgiveness for the afterlife. No apologies, no second drafts." Just before midnight, another voicemail buzzed in. Jessa this time. Her voice was different, not performative or rehearsed, just broken. "I know you hate me. I know I earned that, but we're not okay. We lost everything. Please, can you just tell me if you're safe? That's all I need to know. Please, Margot, please." I stared at the phone, listened to the silence after her voice faded. Then I reached over, thumb hovering for a moment, and pressed delete. No reply. I was watering my basil plant when Cassandra called. Her voice was clipped, precise, the way it always was when something serious had unfolded. Not urgent, not panicked. Just sharpened steel. "The court opened a secondary review," she said. "Unrelated to us, kind of." I paused, setting the watering can down on the patio tile. "What do you mean, unrelated?" "They flagged Trent and Jessa's names during a routine check after your hearing. Seems this isn't their first time trying to nudge someone into premature estate transfer." That caught my breath. "Years ago," she continued, "Jessa's great-uncle, Walter Jameson, I believe, suddenly added both their names to his accounts and trust documents shortly before being admitted to assisted care." My fingers tightened around the edge of the railing. I remembered Walter. Quiet man. No children, always brought butterscotch to Christmas dinners. Cassandra continued. "The original case never went to trial, but after your recordings were entered into probate record, a clerk cross-referenced surnames. Walter's niece had filed a complaint back then. It was dismissed. Lack of evidence." "And now?" I asked. "Now they have evidence," she said. "Thanks to you." The hearing was expedited. Closed session. No need for me to appear, though they offered the option. I declined. I'd already said what needed to be said. The law, at long last, had a voice of its own. Cassandra attended in my place. She sent me a summary transcript the next morning. I read it slowly over black coffee and buttered toast. Judge Delaney, same one from our previous session, opened with a tone colder than frostbite. "Mr. Whitaker, Ms. Harper, this court finds a recurring pattern of deceit, manipulation, and financial opportunism surrounding your involvement in at least 2 separate estate arrangements, one dismissed due to insufficient proof, and this one, indisputably documented via your own surveillance." Trent had tried to argue. "Of course he did. We didn't mean for it to look that way." The judge interrupted. Intent is irrelevant. The pattern is not. This court rules you both unfit for fiduciary duty. Permanently barred from serving as trustees, power of attorney, or executor in any legal estate, effective immediately. A moment of silence followed that sentence. I imagined Jess's face, lips parted, mascara clumping under fluorescent lights. Trent, probably still wearing that same navy tie like it gave him dignity, but Cassandra wasn't finished with her updates. They've also been added to the state's fiduciary misconduct registry, she said. Means they'll be flagged in background checks for anything related to guardianship, estate management, elder services, financial advising. I exhaled slowly. And his job? Dropped him this morning, she said. I just got the alert. His employer found the court transcript. Apparently it violated a clause in his ethics agreement. There it was. I didn't cheer. I didn't cry. I just sat back in my chair, let the sunlight warm my arms, and took another sip of coffee. Peace isn't always soft. Sometimes it's a gavel. That afternoon, I received a formal invitation from the State Bar's Elder Advocacy Task Force. They were hosting a legal panel on financial protection for aging populations. They wanted me to speak. 5 minutes, Cassandra said. Open mic, no pressure. I walked up to the podium in a simple slate gray dress. No script, no theatrics, just truth. I'm not a lawyer, I began, and I'm not a victim. I'm someone who was watched, recorded, and underestimated. They thought I was slipping. I was documenting the room held its breath. I didn't outsmart them. I just outlasted their assumptions. Scattered applause, nods. One man in the back even wiped his eye. The next day, the local news picked up the court ruling, then the legal blogs, then the National Elder Justice Forums. Headline, Probate Twist, Court Bans Couple from Future Claims After Attempted Estate Exploitation. Subhead, Victim's Footage Leads to Ethics Fallout, Professional Consequences for Accused Son. I didn't post it. I didn't share it. But I printed it, folded it once, and slid it into the back of my journal. The sunroom wasn't large, but it was everything I needed. Pale gold light spilled across the tile each morning, warming the tops of my slippers as I sipped coffee and read a chapter from whichever mystery I was nursing that week. I'd hung my garden photographs along the far wall, bursts of peony pink and violet clover against crisp white paint. Memory, framed and blooming. The air was still. No whir of hidden fans, no subtle hums from fake smoke detectors, no invisible blinking lights, just me. When I moved in, I replaced the curtains myself, light linen, no frills, the kind that move gently with the breeze and don't conceal anything. Transparency was the new luxury. The church ladies, Alice, Bev, and Dorothy, dropped by every Thursday now, like clockwork. They brought casseroles in faded Pyrex and stories in brighter colors. The gossip was gentle, never mean-spirited. We played cards after dessert. Bev always cheated just a little, but no one called her out for it. One afternoon, Alice leaned in with a wink and said, "You've got your piece back, Margot. You wear it well." And I did. Even the mirror agreed. The small security system I had installed here was simple. 2 cameras I could monitor myself, one for the front porch, one in the back garden. My choice, my password. No one else had the codes. Control wasn't about paranoia. It was about permission. And no one had mine anymore. Cassandra arrived just before noon one Friday, carrying her usual leather folio and a brown paper bag that smelled like cinnamon muffins. She knew I didn't ask for much. Just clarity, clean paperwork, and the ability to breathe in my own space. We sat at the sunroom table, papers spread between us, the soft click of her pen dancing with birdsong outside the window. "This is everything for the archives," she said, tapping the final form. "Healthcare proxy, updated will, donation clauses, and the exclusion riders for both parties are fully certified." "I didn't think you could make legal language sound so satisfying," I said. She smiled. "We try. We signed everything slowly, neatly, no rush. There was no more hurry in me, no more racing to stay ahead of betrayals. I had arrived. Then she reached into the side pocket of her folio and pulled out a slim navy blue envelope. It was sealed with a silver sticker, blank except for 3 handwritten words. For after. M.H. "What's this?" I asked, fingers brushing the edge. "Just a precaution," she said softly. "It contains a statement, power of representation, and a cease directive with teeth sharper than last time. Only open it if they ever show up again, or if something needs to be re-explained." I held the envelope in both hands, its weight delicate but unmistakable. "I doubt. I'll need it," I said quietly, looking out toward the sunlit patio. "But still." She nodded. "Exactly." After she left, I placed the envelope in the bottom drawer of my writing desk. Not in the locked box, not behind false bottoms, just somewhere reachable but out of sight. Then I returned to my chair, pulled the Afghan over my knees, and opened a fresh book. Outside, wind swept through the lavender pots along the windowsill. A dove cooed softly from the nearby tree. The house creaked, not in protest, but in comfort, as if even the walls were finally at rest. Every blink of their little spy cameras, every whisper caught on audio, it had all become part of my shield. Proof that I wasn't unraveling. Proof that I'd never been the one confused. And now all of it lived far beyond their reach, in sealed court files, digital archives, and folders labeled with timestamps and truth. But I didn't need to carry it anymore. This chapter wasn't about them. Cassandra and I met one final time to update the will, not out of anger but in tension. The scholarship fund now sat front and center. The Margot Whittaker Literacy Legacy, awarded annually to a local high school senior who'd grown up caring for a grandparent, preference given to those who'd been underestimated. "I want them to know it wasn't just revenge," I told Cassandra, pen in hand. "It was reinvestment." "Then let's make it permanent," she said, nodding. Trent and Jessa were gone from every legal page, struck, barred, unrecognizable in any document that might survive me. It was like they'd never existed on paper, only in footage, and now in lessons. The morning after finalizing the paperwork, I visited Hawthorne Elementary. The school had invited me quietly, no press, no applause, just a small wooden plaque unveiled in the corner of the library. This reading corner is dedicated to Margot Whittaker, whose strength reminded us what stories can protect. I stood near the back, arms crossed lightly, as a little girl with pink barrettes and a missing front tooth sat in the armchair beneath my name and read Charlotte's Web aloud to herself. She didn't know who I was. She didn't need to. She turned a page and whispered a word to herself slowly, "Ter I fic," and smiled. I felt something deep settle, like a weight not dropped but finally digested. On the way home, I stopped by the post office. The original SD card, the one I'd found blinking behind the bookshelf all those months ago, sat in a small padded envelope. No return address, just a label. 2. National Center for Elder Justice. ATN, Evidence and Education Department. Inside was a note, short, Director. They wanted a record, here's mine. Use it to protect someone who hasn't found her voice yet. I handed it to the postal clerk. He looked up. "Anything fragile?" "No," I said. It already survived everything. Back at the co-op, the sunroom welcomed me like an old friend. Light spilled across the rug, warming the space where I kept my writing desk. Not grand, just simple pine, same one I'd used to pay bills, draft lesson plans, and once, decades ago, scrawl out a love letter to a man who'd never stop holding my heart. I opened a fresh, leather-bound journal, cream pages, no lines. I stared at the first page for a long moment, not because I didn't know what to write, but because I finally did. My hand moved slowly, carefully. I wrote one name, not Trent, not Jessa. A name from my childhood, a friend who'd lived next door, whose parents never thought she'd go far, who once told me, "Don't let anyone write your story for you." I wrote her name, then mine beneath it, then at the bottom, in neat script, the next chapter, mine.